Καλησπέρα σας και καλώς ήλθατε.
Good afternoon and welcome in our event with two writers from Syria. My name is Alexandra Bichler, and we have prepared this event on behalf of Literature Across Frontiers.
To say a few words to welcome you in Greek, and it's a great pleasure to be here and to be presenting these two writers who both live in Germany, and to also have Philippe Leclerc, who represents the UN Refugee Agency in Greece. I will pass the word to him, and he will join the whole discussion. And I will just say very briefly that he has been working for the agency for 30 years. And apart from doing the work that we all imagine he is doing, which is often the kind of which is the work that makes the news mostly, and is what brings the what's referred to as refugee crisis to our screens and newspapers. But there are other aspects of the refugee situation, and this is what we're going to be talking about. And Philippe has actually also organized some cultural events with refugee writers. So we have this in common. Philippe, over to you.
Well, thank you, Alexandra. Kalispera sas, as I can still speak after 5 years of working not in asylum, because I was not forced to leave my country and come to Greece, but to work with people who had to flee their countries. Many of them were Syrians, others were Iraqis, others more recently are from Afghanistan. And you may remember, as the people in Greece remember, how many people have arrived. 1 million of people arrived in 2015, and further down, people continue to arrive on the islands and on Greece. And many of them are trying now that it is not possible that much anymore to continue the way to Germany, to Sweden, and other European countries. Many of them are trying to make their way, their life in Greece, and become active citizens. And I think I'm glad to be back in the Thessaloniki Book Fair, as we did last year with Ali Bader, an Iraqi writer, to discuss literature. And I'm very glad that as a UNHCR representative, I can discuss literature, not only because I was cultural attaché in the French embassies long time ago, but more importantly, because many of the refugees, because sometimes you have to be called like that, even if often you don't like to be called like that. It's a status. When you have that status, because many refugees sometimes do not have that refugee status and are not protected as such, it's people. And the work that I try to do all over the different places I have been, including in Greece, is to ensure that as early as possible, people can stand again on their feet and be independent, self-reliant, and be able to continue their lives, to rebuild their lives for some. And this can be through art, it can be through literature, and sometimes even the exile that people have to go through may be a topic and make literature grow. Sometimes yes, sometimes not. There are so many characters, so many individuals, and this is again, what is the most interesting is giving again a place for the human being to develop. And refugees are people who had to leave their countries because of persecution, because of war, depending on the situation. And it's to help refugees to grow again and to be themselves and do it in the new countries in which they arrive. And I think today we have two persons who are living in Germany for recently, but I let you, Alexandra, discuss and present them now before we can exchange directly together.
Thank you very much, and thank you for placing emphasis on really the issue of basically receiving refugees with and allowing them the dignity of self-defining themselves, of pursuing their dreams, of being able to work in the sector, or pursue the art that they have started with or may want to start with in the new situation. I would like to just say a few words about my organization and why we are doing this session. LAF, Literature Across Frontiers, has been around for 20 years, and we have always focused on our motto, I would say, is making literature travel, but some literatures travel more easily than others. And we have made it our mission to really allow literatures and writing that may be underrepresented, that may not be widely translated, to travel and to be presented in festivals, in book fairs, on occasions like this one. And since the book fair, the Thessaloniki International Book Fair, has Germany as its guest of honor, I thought that it would be really a good idea to present two writers who live in Germany and who were given an opportunity, a new home where they can pursue writing. They are Rása Abbás and Rábáb Hαϊντάρ, and I will very briefly introduce them. Rása is a prose, they are both prose writers. Rása is a prose writer who has lived in Germany since 2014, and she has published 3 collections of short stories, 2 actually when she was already in Germany, and they were published in Arabic, and they both write in Arabic. This is another topic we will be looking at. They were both published by an Arabic publishing house based in Italy, and they were both translated into German. So Rása has translations into German of her work. Some of her short stories, she's a short story writer, have been translated into English, and you can find them online, for example, on the website called Words Without Borders. They will both read from their work in English, so it's a complicated linguistic situation. They write in Arabic. They have some translations, but their books have not really appeared in English or in Greek. And hopefully somebody, if there's a publisher watching, maybe, there will be some interest. So, yes. Now, Rábáb Hαϊντάρ is a novelist. She published her novel, which is called The Land of Pomegranates. And she will tell us about that book. She has written 2 more novels, but she has, so to speak, put them in her drawer because she wants to reassess the situation she is in now. She has lived in Germany since only for 2 years, since 2018. And I suppose it's to be expected that move, that change, has had an impact on her writing. So I also should have said that Rása's stories, the first one is called, in English translation, and of course the whole book doesn't exist in English translation, is called The Invention of German Grammar. So that gives you a hint, about the subject of these short stories, and they are written from the point of view of someone who, or based on her experiences of starting in Germany, learning the language. Her second book is called The Gist of It, and it's quite different, as she tells me. I've only read a little bit translated by Alice Guthrie, who is Russia's translator into English, and the extract that Russia will read, it has been translated by Alice. So where to start? Well, first of all, I should say that we were actually expecting to be in Thessaloniki in May, and I think it would have been a much better situation. I suppose we all, I lived in Greece for some years, many years ago, in Thessaloniki, and I miss it, and I suppose you both also miss you know, the life in the south, the climate and so on. Maybe we talk about that later as well. But really, what I want to start with is I want to ask you about how you have dealt with the situation of being in a new cultural environment, in a new literary scene, in a living in an environment with a language you didn't speak. I don't know how well you speak German now. No, says Rasha. How come?
Because I live in Kreuzberg. In Kreuzberg, nobody speaks German, really. You can really survive with maybe Turkish, Arabic, yeah, like, but German, no.
Well, so I can imagine. I know what Kreuzberg is like, and I suppose that places like Kreuzberg or Wedding in Berlin are places where you maybe feel a little bit more at home. But tell me, how have you found this situation, in the sense of, has there been anything that has helped you to kind of stand on your 2 feet as writers and you know, continue writing? And I suppose Ραμπάμπ may want to talk about a project which actually is called, you know, to continue writing, weiterschreiben, and tell us about that as well.
Okay, so should I start or you, Ραμπάμπ?
Yeah. Why?
You start, Rasha.
Let's just have a discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, Rasha, you have been in German longer. Yeah.
Well, actually, like, for the factors that helped me like continue writing, it's really like this kind of things, you know, it's similar to losing weight. You are the last one to realize it, actually, because like really, like, what you do is what I did is just I continued my writings. Like, of course, like the surroundings in difference, and maybe I can think of now I'm thinking of it. Like I think it was helpful, for example, like many Syrians I know, and nowadays in Berlin, it's becoming like the new place for Arabic culture. Like, you will see a lot of writers, artists, not just from Syria, but all over the Arabic countries. So I think from one side, like, this was helpful because, like, you still have this sense of a home somehow, like in Berlin. And I think, like, the other factors, like which was for me, like, you know, easier to translate and to publish books and so is because of like what it's called the refugee crisis, and so, and Syria being like this topic on all the news headlines, and so I think there was some interest from the audience, like maybe to know about Syrian literature and to read more like of it, and so and that, but I would say like this factor, it's maybe like good from one side and maybe it's not so good from the other side, because it's sometimes it feels like people are waiting to listen about your misery. And this is the thing, like people waiting to hear from you. But yeah, like those, that's it. Alexandra, you are...
I'm muted. I know this is the motto of 2020. You muted
Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I better not unmute myself anymore, because then I forget to go back. So Ραμπάμπ, you have been and still are part of this project, which is an ongoing project that pairs writers in exile, refugee writers, whatever you may call them, or writers at risk, with German writers. Can you tell us a bit about that? And I just want to say that one thing kind of stuck with me. I watched a short video of you with Ulla Lenze, who is your counterpart in this project. And what you said was that you joined the project actually before you came to Germany, which is also interesting, that it made you feel safe. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I was in Syria at the 2000, I spent all the wartime in Syria. So in 2016, I started to work with this Arabic newspaper, Abwab, that is the only Arabic newspaper almost in Berlin at that time. So one of the editor-in-chief, actually, he is the one who introduced me to Walter Schreiben. Today I was writing from Syria about the war. I stopped writing novels at that time. I just wanted to express my frustration, our fear. It's not a report about war, but one of my articles was a report about war, but it was not the sad ones, not the journalistic ones, to mirror what we are feeling, not what is happening. War is repeated every time, it's the same horrible story every time, actually. But the reflection of the war on the individual, that's what really struck me. Like, we all been in a very horrible situation, so I wanted to write about, just like it's kind of therapy for me. It was like pour everything out. I didn't care who will read it or not. I just wanted to write about it. So with Walter Schreiben, I was sending them my articles and the reflection of the war on us, and the response was really, really good with the German readers, actually. Walter Schreiben is a project about how to continue writing when you are unable to write. The circumstances are not helping you. For example, if you're a refugee in exile, or you are under dictatorship, or you are under some kind of threat like war. So I started writing about this, and then I was introduced to Ulla Lenze. And the funny story, okay, I will tell the story later. But yeah, it made me really feel safe that I have a voice from outside. If I was arrested, and which is like, it was really the horrible thing to think about, to get arrested. It's not to die. To die in a wartime, it's something like you accept it. It becomes the norm of the war. You might die any moment. And for a certain reason, adaptation of the human being, it makes you okay with it. But what really frightens me is to get arrested, the torture, the craziness you hear about. So I felt that when I have a voice from outside, if I get arrested, the people in Germany will know about me. I have someone to fight for me, to send my voice really from outside. If something happened to me, they will pressure them not to torture me, for example. So yeah, actually, I felt so safe to the extent that I used my real name. I didn't use an alias name. I used it before, my alias name. But with Walter Schreiben, I used my real name. I was like, I don't care. This is my safety net, actually, to be able to have my name from outside to outside. It's not something I'm very proud about, but it's what it is. This is war. And fear is a main factor to make you move in a certain way. So yeah, I start to write with Walter Schreiben so I can feel safe, actually.
What you said reminded me of situations where in some countries, people are being arrested in the street and they shout their name. They shout their name so that, you know, whoever is around at least knows who this person is before they may disappear. So, Philippe, would you like to actually contribute with your experience of working with writers?
Perhaps just before sharing that, I would have a question also for Ravab as a writer, actually, because you said that you had to write. You had this feeling that you really had to write. But so when doing so, is it something that's like spontaneous writing? Do you get back? Do you reread? How just as more a technique? Because what you were saying is really a feeling, and how does and perhaps some of it you would not like to share. I don't know.
No, it's fine. I would love to share it with you all. Actually, I started to write when you read my first text, Weiterschreiben. It was like a crazy person text, right? Everything is poured out. Everything is written. I never rewrite even. I didn't care. I didn't think about it. I just like put it all out. The fear, the frustration, the new reality that we don't know. It is real. Is it a dream, a nightmare? So I just like put it out. Then later on, I started to calm down a little bit. But the first text, if you read it, they are so full of details and perspectives, and it's like a crazy person writing, really. And that what happened under stress, I think. I was so selfish at the time, in an extent that I didn't care about nothing. I just wanted our image, not only me, our all fear, to be presented there. So I really didn't edit even any of my texts. And the beautiful thing is, even my editor-in-chief and the readers, they got this feeling, so they accepted it. Yeah. To the extent that it was like really applauding for something, for the fear that I was in. Not only me, it's like the whole Syrian people inside Syria. So yeah.
So, yes, it's a kind of liberation, as you say it. And but again, as you have been going on, then you look at it, and it's also writing when you are at risk. There's a first liberation, but sometimes when you write, as you were describing, Alexandra, you may be in a situation of risk for yourself or also for your friends, your family, your neighbors. And this also sometimes leads you also to be more careful in writing in such situations which are extreme. So again, Weiterschreiben, to continue writing in these circumstances, is also very difficult, risky, and sometimes that's there in these kind of situations. So I think it's very important, and I lived through that when I was working in France, where writers from all over the world were also assisted to have a house, to have also some material conditions to continue to be able to write, because sometimes you are in the basic difficult material conditions, but also that's not enough. And how to engage with other writers, how do you engage with writers which are not only from, for example, the Arabic world or from your nationality, but with others. Some people who have sometimes gone through also difficulties. And again, I think that by talking to each other, it can be a real strong stimulation as well. I don't know if you have had these experiences, because Rasha, you were mentioning in particular the inter-Arabic connection, of course, and Kreuzberg, as we now know, is also indeed in Berlin. But if you are in some other parts of Germany, this may not be that easy, this exchange. And there is this cosmopolitanism, if I can say so, in certain towns. Certainly it was the case when I was in Paris, where there were various nationalities meeting. In Berlin today, for sure. If I take the example of Athens and Thessaloniki, the two capitals of Greece, you have some activities of literature, of course, but the exchange with foreigners, apart from the Balkans, is not that strong. So again, I think Berlin, Paris, London, different places at a certain time are hubs somehow for people to be able to exchange. But it's different when you are in places which are more isolated.
maybe we could look at, Rasha, maybe you can talk a little bit about the process of working with your translator who translated your 2 books and the response to them. And also if you could perhaps comment, both of you, on what I often hear from writers who are refugees, that's their status, that they feel that there is an expectation that they will write about particular topics, and basically that they will write about that experience, and they will do it in possibly, you know, a very realistic way, and so on. So this may not be like that all the time, but this is what I've heard. And what you said, Rasha, before is that you kind of, the expectation is that you will be writing about your misery, you know. So do you want to talk about that, and also about the work with your translator, with your German translator?
Yeah, like commenting on this, like people wanting to hear about your misery, so I gave them a nasty, humorous book instead. And this book, the process, the question of the process and how it came, it was actually, it has a weird story, because at first, like the translator, Sandra Hetzel, she is a very good translator from Arabic to German, and she was looking like from looking for Syrian writers, especially like the youngest Syrian writers. And I'm so thankful for her for this, that I'm still considered the youngest writer till now. So she sent me some email, and she added me on Facebook and stuff, and she was asking me for samples for my stories. But then I sent her like few stories from the gist of it book, which is the serious book. So she read them, but then I was at the same time writing, like, because I arrived newly to Germany, I was writing like some Facebook posts, actually, some funny Facebook posts about like life in Germany and dealing with the German language and so and so. And then she wrote me, she said, like, you know, like those posts are even more interesting. Like, I was a bit insulted, but it's okay. She told me, like, those funny stories are like, those ideas are more interesting than the other stories you wrote. Do you think you can like put them in a book, like make them stories and put them in a book? And I told her like I would, but I had to think about it. Because first of all, I came from a culture where really like the only literature that it's considered like real literature is the serious one. This one. I'm hearing echo in my voice. Do you hear me well now?
Yeah, we can hear you okay.
The echo.
Yeah.
But the echo is still there. Okay, I'll try something. Okay, I hope it's better now. Okay, so for this reason, like I was raised really in this like really serious environment, and when if you have to write about something and be considered a real writer, you have to write about topics that matters, whatever does this mean. So for me, it was a crazy idea that I have to write a whole humorous book. And especially we are speaking about a situation which is not so humorous. Like it's really not funny, like the whole situation which led me and others to be in Germany in this time. So for all these reasons, like I was thinking about it, and I've never done that before. Like I never like wrote a humorous, even like maybe some articles and so in some websites. But in the end, I decided just to go for it. And also, especially, I was afraid because, you know, it's really different. It's really different from one place to, from one culture to another, the sense of humor. Like, I don't know, like, if the German readers will like it, or if the Arabic readers would see that it's coming from a place very far away from them, like being in Germany and learning German language. So this relation with the audience is not so clear. And I was really scared of this. But in the end, I just decided to go with it. So I wrote the book, and then it was translated to German. I think that was in 2015. Or I think it was translated in 2015, and it was published by Microtext Publishings in Germany in 2016 or something. And that's how I wrote my first, and not sure if it's the last, humorous book ever. Because I would like to say something, really. When you write like serious literature and like somehow you failed, it appeared not so good, like it's okay. It's easier to deal with, you know, it's really easier. But if you are trying to write like humorous stuff and it did not work, this is really harder to handle. Like, you feel like people really would like you to drop dead or something. So it was really, like, it was a bigger risk. But in the end, I just did it, and I don't know if I will do it ever again.
Well, humor, and we had some conversations about this with Rasha, that humor is a kind of defense mechanism that people often use in, you know, in situations which can be quite serious. And for instance, the Palestinian writer Mazen Maruf, who now lives in Reykjavik, of all places, where he found refuge, his writing is really very, it's very funny, but it's the kind of black humor that you know, you find is the kind of last resort. And what he says about that is that, you know, when you're in a situation where you can die in the next minute, but all you have left is you can kind of, you know, make fun of the next person to you. So so I think this is very true. And of course, there are many other ways in which you can convey, you know, what you feel, the impact of the situation, rather than sort of describing it. And I watched one of the previous sessions today in the same thematic strand, which is the refugee experience. And it was two writers who are really outsiders, you know, who have been writing about refugees from the outside. So I think there is that distinction that, you know, are you writing about your own experience, but then it may not be your own experience. It may not be, you know, something that you have lived through personally, because you do process, you know, everything as a writer. And I think this is really important, that, you know, you are here as writers, and of course, you know, you have a status which may change in the future. We never know what's going to happen, but you are primarily writers. You write in a language which you brought with you, and of course, I hope that your work will be translated and that you will continue writing. I think at this point it would be maybe good to have you read your extracts. Rabbab, would you like to start with your short piece? That was something that was written in Germany, isn't it?
In Syria.
It was it written as part of the?
No, it was. No, it project. Was the last text. It wasn't in the project, really, but this is the last text I wrote in Syria before I could get out. That was 2018, and it was a video call. So I start reading it now.
Please.
A video call. My heart is all right. I write, I tear up the pages, I rewrite, I publish, I write again. We're all right here. We stumble upon the past and upon one another. We may have become fewer in number since the war started, but the overcrowding, for some reason, has increased. The coffee shops are full of madmen now, fortune tellers, palm readers, and prostitutes. And the regulars, of course, depressed men and women, exhausted and retired, poets with their muses, poets who never once wrote a poetry, or who wrote poems but sold them in a moment of drunken despair. Photos. Photos are surrounding everyone on the walls. Photos of mothers and fathers looking for their missing children. Photos of missing people, young and old, looking to be found or to be dead. Photos of dead people, photos of martyrs. From behind their pictures appear the phantom of the person who killed them and the phantoms of the people whom they killed. People are constipated to the full. I mean the streets. The streets are constipated to their full capacity of people. Disabled, exhausted, lost, half alive, half dead, and half praise our Father in the skies. All are all right. The shops are overstocked, and one expects otherwise in wartime. There are a lot of hair extensions, plastic eyelashes, false or used fingernails, extra fingers, used only once eyes that come in different colors and sizes. Everyone here is fine. Our men are half-half, but we, women, are all fine, licking the wounds of our men while our men trying to lick their fear away. I recently restrained myself from screaming. Before that, I restrained myself from crying. Actually, I taught my eyes how to swallow the tears back. Open your eyes wide. Now swallow the tears back. Open your eyes, tilt your head, swallow the tears up. Swallow the tears. There. What a good girl you are. I write, I tear up the pages, I rewrite, I publish, and write again. Enough about me. How are you? You had the density of the green spaces in Europe, you're saying. You don't like the sun, it's too sharp, and the cold season is too long. You are feeling down. You like to see me naked now. Yes, look, yes. I made the henna tattoo. I made it myself, but you will not be able to notice it because the henna paste I made did not stick. The makeup I applied on the reflection of my face in the mirrors, you will not be able to see. I slaughtered the pigeon. The pigeons, they did not coo. I pissed off cats. They did not care. They just stared. I found little foxes dead on the rural areas. I tore their hearts out and wrote about them. I killed my neighbor who had been bedridden forever. I let him slide into the other world. He did not scream, he did not cry, and no one thanked me for that. Yes? You have to hang up. Something urgent has come up. All right, I'm all right. I write, I publish, I kill, I go back to write. And my heart, unlike yours, is a stone now. And it is all right.
Thank you, Rabbab. Really hard-hitting piece. Thank you. Now, Rasha, you will read your text, which I have heard before, and it's quite different. But I would say that there is a kind of undercurrent that, you know, the two have in common. Rasha, over to you.
I'm sorry, because you heard it before. I'm sorry, I'm
No,
bringing that text from festival to the
like
other and reading the
bullets.
same piece.
Yeah.
Okay. So, falling down politely, or how to use up all 6 bullets instead of playing Russian roulette. Translated from Arabic by Alice Guthrie. But where is the skill in loading a gun with just 1 round of ammunition and pointing it at your head? The brilliant thing would be to fill all 6 chambers and let every bullet kill you, one after the other. Bullet number 1. Even though the voice ringing out from the stereo in your bedroom belongs to a singer who did not die at 27 like those other musical geniuses, Kurt Cobain, Jimi Hendrix, that bunch, you still listen to him every morning. You open your curtains to find a severed head in an elegant planter on the windowsill. It's bald, and the eyes are peacefully closed. As far as you remember, you've made no visits to Al-Mu'tamid ibn Abbad, medieval garden of severed heads, to pluck this one from among his enemies. So perhaps Al-Mu'tamid himself arrived in Damascus last night, bearing these heads of his as gifts, borne along in a convoy, darkened by the shadow of 1,000 curved swords, which blocked the way through the Bab Shar'i, old city gate. You sat down on a wooden chair there once, right on the curbside, worn out from a show-off drinking binge that hadn't made you look hard like it was meant to be. A German tourist dabbed at your brow with a damp piece of cloth, saying, "You will be all right," in a scornful Germanic English voice. Then you got into a taxi with your broke friends and terrified them. You were so out of it that you actually launched into a mangled recitation of an Old Testament psalm in a broken Hebrew, as the taxi driver stared distrustfully at you in the rearview mirror. "Give thanks to the Lord," you said to him, as if in response to his glares, then completed the line in your dodgy Hebrew, "Ki le'olam chasdo," for his steadfast love endures forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, hearing these two texts, one next to the other, I can actually see how they speak to one another, and that there is not a huge distance between them. Philip, would you like to say something? Would you like to ask a question?
I would like to echo what you have said. I think they're not that far from each other, of course, in a very different style. And actually, I would like to follow the question that you had addressed regarding the translation, because you both write in Arabic. How do you read and listen your texts in another language, be it German or English? What I have seen, knowing some writers, is that for some, fame has come sometimes through the translation, and sometimes we also forget about the translators. I remember, I know Ismail Kadare, who is an Albanian writer, and I remember very much his first translator, Yusuf Rioni. And Ismail Kadare's novels have first been very well known through the French translation Yusuf Rioni made of them in the 60s. And so, again, both on how you read your literature, your writing in another language that you understand, of course, and also the work that you have or you don't have, tell us with the translator.
Okay, should I go or should you go, Rebab?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Rasha.
Okay. Well, yeah, like dealing with this translation thing, I don't know, because, for example, when Alice Guthrie, who is a British translator, sometimes when she translates my text and I see them then in this high English, I got this sudden feeling of an imposter syndrome, actually, because I start to question myself, like, because especially like Alice is a really like sharp translator, and she, while she translates the text, she asks so many questions. So she kind of played a role of an editor. actually. So she, when she translates, she really pushes me to make the text better and to clarify some things and to rethink some other stuff. So when it comes out like in the English like translation, so I sometimes start to have these doubts and ask myself, like, is that really like, is that how good like my text sound like in Arabic, or it sounds like this in English after the editing and translation? And for German translation, I don't know, the problem is I'm not yet so good in German that I can actually like even like have any feeling with the German translations. And this is a weird situation, because sometimes I would be invited like to events like here in Germany, and they would have some theater actor or actress reading the text in German. So I would be sitting there looking at them while they read my text and try to catch like which words are which, and not understanding anything the audience is hearing, and also not be able even to read the reviews. Like sometimes like a newspaper or so would write a piece about the book or so. So I would go like sometimes on Google Translate to just be able to figure out. So I feel it's a really weird situation, but maybe it's for my own sake, because maybe some reviews on like Goodreads or something are not so nice. I feel I don't really understand German, but I can like have a feeling if the review is bad, or I don't know, or asking me to go back to my fucking country or something. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks.
I like that. Go back to your fucking country. Actually, I had this experience when I was writing in Syria.
Really?
So
like they were asking you to go back to your
back to my fucking country. And I was like, I'm in my fucking country. Yeah, but the translator, seriously, the same as Russia. My translator, because we don't have an editorial, the culture of editing in Arabic world, in Arabic publishing. So it was a nice experience to have my translator to be my own editor also. Like he will ask me questions, like Russia said, will ask me questions, will make me question me, the text, and the reader. So yeah, it was a nice experience actually. I was so lucky with Gunter Orthe, because he's a very good person, he's a very good reader and a very good translator. But the responses, maybe unlike Russia, I had the responses from so many people. Some of them are really racist, which I know, I accept that, because I know human nature to go against the other. We always have otherness. But some people, they feel you. And what I do in my text, I try to really, every reading I have, I try to emphasize this. We are not the only one. We are not the last one. It's always happening. It's always happening in the human history. The refugee problem, fleeing your country, war, it's everywhere. It's not only one way to get it, like, oh, this is the Syrians or the Iraqis. It happens I'm sorry, I was almost to swear, every time. It's very important. That's why I really have the impulse to write, and now I have the motivation to write, to show that it's not only us, it can be everywhere and anywhere. We have to write those texts to remind people of the horror of the war, the horror of dictatorship, the horror of fear, actually. I don't mean it's my job, but it's our job as a public speaker to emphasize this. We are not the only one. We are not the last one. We have to be really careful not to repeat this again. It's repeated, and we have to stop it somewhere. My story is your story, is everyone's story, is your grandmother's story. It's repeated. So that's why I'm a little bit optimistic about writing and literature. Even if you are a refugee, if you are in exile, if you are a foreign language speaker, as much as you have the translator, which is the bridge between you and the other, you can meet. You can meet, and you can hopefully accomplish something. Like in those kind of readings, something like what Rasha said. I think I did the same reading in the same theater, Mannheim and the Ruhr, like Rasha did. And when I hear the German language, I didn't understand a word, of course, unfortunately. But I looked at the audience, I looked at their faces, and I saw the places where they laughed, and they were like, oh my God, or were they shocked? And I really loved it. I loved the experience. I do believe that humankind, they are so much alike, more than they think they are. And literature really is a window to show that. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, you did, and you even answered the question that I had in my mind to ask next. And it's really that on the one hand, yes, the situation we are talking about, whether you call it refugee crisis or whether you call it displacement or exile, has been repeated. It was something that really marked the 20th century, and here we are repeating it, and it actually doesn't make me feel very optimistic. But what I wanted to ask, and you partly answered that, is do you believe that literature has that power to convey something that journalism doesn't, that figures, statistics don't, that may elicit empathy, that may make people identify with the other, as you said?
I will answer that, Rasha. Is it okay?
You almost have, but if you want to add something, yeah.
Actually, I do believe, because when you read literature from, for example, from Japan to Latin American, you feel it. Even if you are staying in Syria and never left Syria before, you feel the literature. You become one with the human being that he is, the character that the writer writes about. We are so much alike. So yes, I do believe literature doesn't make this drastic changes, but it's one of the windows to look at the other and know that, yes, we are like that. One of the interviews, couple of interviews, they provoke you to be angry about it. Like, what do you think of the war in Syria, of the war, of the violence elsewhere? It's never elsewhere. It's always here in the moment. It can burst any time. Or someone else will be like, do you feel privileged to come here? No, I don't feel privileged to lose my country. It's not a privilege to be in war. And this cannot be answered through reports. Journalistic reports, of course, they have a major part of showing the audience what's going on. But I do believe in literature. I do believe in it as a tool to understand each other, to bridge between each other, between humanity.
Yeah, Rasha, before you have a go, what I want to say is that this response, you should feel grateful, you should feel privileged. It's something that comes up again and again, and there are some answers to this in books, in literature written by refugees. And one of them, for example, is Dina Nayeri, who writes in English. She's Iranian, and she published a book last year, I think, which was called "The Ungrateful Refugee," which is it's partly a memoir, and it's also about her going back to where she lived in Europe as a teenager and in Italy, and it is an answer, to the assumption that refugees have to be grateful, that they have to follow a certain path, that they have to assimilate, and so on. There's also there are two lines from a poem by Barsan Shire, who is a poet who again writes in English, and she says, "Nobody leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark." it is a kind of it's an overstatement, because a lot of people leave home and they're not in an extreme situation. But that should also be allowed. People should be allowed to go and explore. They should be allowed to learn other languages. They should be allowed to cross frontiers. They should be allowed to go and experience another life. And in doing that, they will contribute. They will contribute to the place where they are making a new home. I'm speaking from my own experience, by the way. So, Rasha, what do you have to say about literature changing the mind of people?
I don't know, because I feel the answer is yes, but the answer in the same time is no. Because I see it, of course, I believe in the power in literature in making a change, but I don't see it at a wide range, for example, and I don't see it as a direct thing. I see it more as a reflective medium, really. I think it can reflect, it can educate. Even I'm not really thrilled about this role of literature. It can be a bridge to knowledge somehow, but I think a part of it, especially speaking about the Syrian situation, I honestly think what's happening there, for example, I will just speak about myself. I cannot compete with that in literature, what's happening there. And I know the idea is not to compete with the real events, but that's why, for example, why I see myself running away really from writing realistic stuff about Syria. Just a few days ago, there was a piece of news about a boy 5 or 6 years old who is crossing the desert from southern Syria to Jordan, holding a bag with just the clothes of his mom who died at war. I cannot compete with this kind of harsh reality. I cannot make it a topic for fiction writings. I just can't. And in that case, especially about the Syrian case, no, I think listening to reading the news piece and journalistic reports may be more useful if you really want to learn about if you want to have an opinion about what's happening there. I don't think, honestly, I wish if the situation was different, but I don't think our words can do much in that scenarios. I would believe on the long term maybe, or it would give a new perspective or change an idea you have about something. But in our current time and in this horrible situation, I don't really think it's really a tool for changing my mind or even changing realities.
Thank you. We reached the point where we have to
say goodbye.
Where we have to end the session, and I would like to thank you. I would like to thank the organizers of the book fair and the Hellenic Culture Foundation, and I would like to thank the interpreters who have been, I believe, interpreting what we're saying. They're often forgotten and not thanked. And I would like to ask you, Philippe, to say the last word before we finish.
Well, thank you very much to the three of you. It was a conversation, and that's what I liked about it as well. And we shared it with many others, hopefully, who were there to listen. I hope that next year we will be able to meet in Thessaloniki, because Thessaloniki is a great town which favors exchange. I would just say on this last note that literature, as we have heard from both of you, the humor may change also the perception that people have, and they then see the people who are just receiving you how badly they behave. And through humor, this can go through rather than making lessons to people. And also on literature, I don't think that we can say that it's just a bridge for peace. Literature is just an instrument also of all kind of thoughts, and people may be also writing about the issues that force people to leave, and it's part also of the literature. So the literature will not only go towards the good, if I may say, but may also reproduce some of the facts that lead people and the wrong things that lead people to flee. So one should not see literature as the full saving of humanity. If it saves the people who write and the people who enjoy reading, it's already quite a lot.
Thank you very much, and thank you to our audiences. And the session will be available on the Facebook of the Thessaloniki International Book Fair. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Οι όριμοι άνθρωποι έχουμε να διδαχθούμε πολλά από τα παιδιά. Εμείς οι εκπαιδευτικοί μπορούμε να μάθουμε να γίνουμε καλύτεροι μεταδότες όχι μόνο των γνώσεων, αλλά κυρίως συναισθημάτων και αξιών προς τα παιδιά. Και αν κάτι μας μαθαίνουν τα παιδιά, είναι ότι πρέπει να προσαρμόζουμε την προσπάθειά μας με τέτοιο τρόπο, ώστε να καταστούμε όλη τη διδασκαλία μας πολύ ελκυστική και εγωιτευτική προς τα παιδιά. Άρα λοιπόν το να έρθουμε κοντά στην ηλικία των παιδιών μας δίνει μια φωτεινότητα και μια ικανότητα τέτοια που μας βοηθά να ξανανιώσουμε. Όχι απλά να γίνουμε παιδιά, να κατανοήσουμε έναν άλλο κόσμο διαφορετικό, με άλλες προκλήσεις και φυσικά άλλες ανάγκες. Όταν λοιπόν μεταγγίζεις τον εαυτό σου στα παιδιά, είναι σαν να βγαίνεις έξω από τις προσωπικές σου ανάγκες, έξω από το δικό σου κόσμο και έρχεσαι σε επαφή με έναν κόσμο άλλον για να μπορέσεις να του δώσεις νόημα και περιεχόμενο και να τον καταστήσεις ικανό να βαδίσει ελεύθερος στο δρόμο του αύριο.